Cari Anthropos, welcome everybody to Economic, all about economics and finance, and as usual, a lot of macroeconomic data. We see we can appreciate how diverse are inflation data across Europe. In Spain, we have HICP and core inflation 3.2, 2.6%, inflation rate 3%. We have a very subdued inflation or price dynamics in France, HICP 0.8 or 0.9. And we have negative readings, minus 0.2, so there is a slightly disinflationary momentum going on in France, probably because of slow economic activity and also all the problems that we are accustomed of, we are aware of, but we are sure France, they will sort it out. And okay, you see how in Germany the inflation puzzle it's picking up again, so it would be not unreasonable if this trend will continue in the next year. It will not be unreasonable for the ECB to reassess and monetary policy and the interest rate tool. As usual, what do we have here is UK GDP numbers. We have to say that year-on-year growth here, okay, it's 1.1%. It's already way better than other countries in the Eurozone, so it's nothing to moan about. Anyway, what I'm concerned of is that be aware of the automatic stabilizers. So what we can say or what we can see and prove, basically GDP growth year on year, while I take the thing, it's 1.1%, and either the OBR and the Exchequer, they were very confident of the fact that GDP growth would have been 1.5%. So they are way off the mark. They have overestimated economic GDP growth in their tables, and I hope you have watched my video. If you're not around here, subscribe to my channel, because I will bring you exactly how things are and not how I would like it to be. So I will show you all the good things, the bad things, but crucially I will share with you my own research. You may like it or not. This is not a common knowledge on YouTube, on the internet, because it's macroeconomic, econometric research. You will need to be in a treasury research department or some other economic think tank research department to see these things. So I'm trying to provide a bit of context and of knowledge. So we see here the OBR, first paragraph, economic outlook, GDP will be 1.5% in 2025. Unfortunately, the own government GDP figures, which is not only at the UK, every government, any government in any time in history, they do the fiscal policy and they put some numbers, and they basically, the real happening, the real economic activities made of millions of people, they are basically always contradicted. They project the wrong stuff and so forth and so on. You see here GDP 1.5% in 2025, and here we see GDP year on year 1.1%. So they are off the mark quite a lot. And I repeat again, to me it doesn't matter. It's 1.1, it's 1.3, it's 1.5. It doesn't matter. What I'm saying, it's another thing. And I repeat again, be aware of the automatic stabilizers. And I will get onto that. Okay, we have it here. So I want to show you I want to share with you my ARIMA models. Well, the machine model forecast. I know that these days forecast it has become a very fancy word. You can see. I hope you can see that. For this data set that we have here, we have a 100 ARIMA with a seasonality component, and basically the overall growth forecast 0.0114, it's 1.1%, 1.15%, which is pretty much this number. Okay, so I'm not showing you the ONS, or because I have my modeling and I do use my modeling to inform my work. Okay, and so will be next year, but those are not really truly precise. Okay, and the quarter-on-quarter growth, the chain value measure, seasonally adjust. I have some slightly higher estimate. These are already for 2026. We are talking about a 0.4% growth quarter-on-quarter. So it's in the data there is already a autocorrelated and embedded trend growth, which is slightly 0.5% quarter-on-quarter. Okay, so what that means is that the ARIMA projection, the model projection with the seasonality effect, it tells me, okay, future economic growth will be more or less, will continue to be stagnant. Now, this chart here, it only takes the data of GDP and it it does the forecast. Okay, it's not that it takes GDP data and it makes it work with other stuff. So it's just one variable. Okay, so it cannot be so precise, but it's a good indicator of the trend of the future trend of the economic variable that you are considering. See, if you are measuring GDP, the overall trend will be 1.1, 1.15% growth yearly. Okay, now I repeat again, be aware of the automatic stabilizers. Why? Because in many autoregressive forecast model that I have implemented, I have unemployment going up. When unemployment goes up, what happens is that people need unemployment benefit, which are technically defined as automatic stabilizers. So the state finds itself out of pocket in tax revenue and has to spend more in stabilizing the output, GDP. So that's the big conundrum, okay? Because I don't think this is already out of the window. But here, I'm concerned. I'm not sure of anything. I'm concerned that these are the wrong assumption. And when you have the wrong assumption, then you're feeding into the model the wrong numbers, because you are excluding that the automatic stabilizer expenditure will have to go up. And probably you have allocated a certain amount of money into other stuff. Okay, so what will save the day next year will be this 7.8 investment, 5.4 investment, and then there is the backloading. Okay, we will balance the budget in 2029, 2030. I would say it's a never. Okay, no, I don't want to comment on that. But anyway, so these figures, they should be good for economic activity. Now it depends, because it's a number on a spreadsheet. I don't know how much money will go towards what. Okay, so what is important is to focus on unemployment. So the youth guarantee, the crucial thing. Okay, economic growth is already better. It's a good economic growth in the G7. It's not. Let's not make a disaster. But if you want to keep the fiscal position in balance, you need to focus on unemployment, on the automatic stabilizers, because that is going to derail the thing. And I will show you why. You can see here what are the projection for unemployment. North of 5-6%. Okay, but now this, by no means they cannot be precise, because these are projected into the future. I don't know what's going to happen in 48, 72 hours time. Okay, but eventually this forecast model, they have some accuracy, they have some precision. Now, another thing that in the UK they forget about is that for all these years, from 1989 to 2025, the average unemployment rate has been 6%. Okay, so if these things goes to 5 and shoots up to 6, it will converge to the average. So it will be a reversion to the mean, to the average trend in the past 30 plus years. Okay, what that means is that if this unemployment goes up way more than the government expects or pretends it to be in the future, okay, that means that the automatic stabilizers, which have to function in order to preserve the output, GDP output, will have to allocate more money towards sustaining people who find themselves without work. What that means that some money which are allocated for investment or for any other, for potholes, for any other sort of things, like anything, they will have to move towards DWP. Okay, I don't know for how long. So the crucial strategy in 2026 is unemployment. It's to curb down unemployment, to make possible not to have this sort of huge trend up in unemployment, because that is going to, you see here as well, another ARIMA, another model. We have 2, 1, 0, so there is one. What it tells me is that this data is not stationary, so there is one differencing to autoregressive model. It's not stationary, it has 2 lags of autocorrelation, then there are 4 lags of seasonality, and then anyway, even using a different method for the software to iterate the forecast, you see here what is the forecast for 2026, north of 5%, 5.7, 5.8. Okay, the lower these two, the 95% confidence interval, so the lower bound and the upper bound range, okay, still would bring the lower bound range would be unemployment going towards declining to 4.7, 4.5. Having picked at 5, it can decline. So there is also this scenario inbuilt into the labor market. But if the thing derails above 5%, that it's a problem for automatic stabilizers, expenditures, and there are then less tax revenue, and you basically fucked up everything. All right. Employment levels would be that level. What concerns me, we see here actual weekly hours of work for full-time workers seasonally adjusted. It's marginally going up, but marginally. Like the average is 35.5, forecast would be 36 hours, 1 hour more of work, maximum 2 hours more of work. But the problem is that the total, which is consistent with high unemployment, the total hours worked, they could be declining, and that it's a problem. It's a problem. It's a problem for income tax. It's a problem for people who work, and they will receive lower wages. Okay, so I see here that the next year, the challenge for Italy, for the United States, for France, for Germany, for Portugal, for Spain, for any advanced economy, will be the labor market, because unemployment it's going up. It's increasing also in the United States or in Canada or in Australia. So it's a global trend where corporates, they are loading up with debt to invest in an asset bubble, and they are shedding workers. Okay, so what that means is that then you are fucked up with the automatic stabilizer. Okay, and here employment range, I apologize if any language, we apologize, etc, etc, etc. Average weekly hours of work, all workers in main and the second job. Okay, there is a huge shaded area, but by no means I see that there can be a decreasing trend according to the last direction of the past data. There can be the scenario or the risk that the overall amount of weekly hours worked could be declining. Yeah, full-time worker. It's the same of the other chart. So this ARIMA here is not seasonal. It's not the Sarimax. It does not have the seasonal adjustment, and there is the possibility of a marginal increase, but I'm not sure, because if we see what is the seasonal effect, we see that the average weekly hours will be 36 hours per week, and the total hours in millions worked could be declining. So that basically, or you see here, if we account for the seasonal effect here, it will be slightly declining and stabilizing here between this amount and that amount. I believe it's millions, so it's I don't know, billion hours, I don't know, 100 million hours. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact number, I should know that if it's millions, this would be a billion hours, and I have to add 6 zeros, so I will read it as a billion. Anyway, so my concern is that economic growth will be eventually sluggish, which already has been declining here. Third quarter year on year 1.3%. Or now, to me, it doesn't matter 1.3, 1.5. The thing is that the assumption in the fiscal numbers, they may be wrong. And if unemployment goes up, then the whole budget for stabilizing GDP will have to be supplemented with automatic stabilizers. In other words, unemployment benefits. And that is my concern for today. So, because I don't want to leave you with a concern, the most important thing for any economy in Europe, any country, is the labor market for 2026. If we don't improve, if there are no hirings, if there are no jobs, if unemployment goes up, it means that the business cycle is over. So to have these fiscal numbers in order, the unemployment rate or the labor market should be the greatest focus, because these numbers, to me, they are not going to be as they will be, because there are all the hallmarks, all signs that, not only in Britain, but as I said, as far as Australia or Canada or United States, more people are becoming unemployed. So there is a trend in motion where unemployment, more people are going out of work. And so this more people out of work, more people needs social safety net. They have the automatic stabilizers for GDP have to kick in and provide the welfare state. So that's otherwise it's going to be huge, worse recession that would be a slowdown in economic growth. So to try and not have more disasters or to miss the GDP data or whatever it is, I'm totally sure that the labor market is the most important feature for next year, the next couple of years, for going forward. Okay, because on other modeling, as I said, I have so many variables. We can see here how the current difference between the economic potential of UK economy and the actual GDP. So there is between the actual GDP and the potential GDP, the output gap is negative. So of course, with 1.1 economic growth or 1.3 yearly GDP, the economy is running below potential, and the unemployment gap is 0. So there is higher unemployment, because the average unemployment rate would be around 4.2%. This is already a higher estimate, structural higher estimate, 4.2, 4.5. So unemployment is higher than it naturally can be, and growth is below potential. And if and when the unemployment numbers would eventually continue to move higher, so more people become unemployed, then it's a problem, and you will have persistent negative growth. So the focus has to be jobs. That's the thing. Also, because in many other findings that I have is that the fiscal multiplier, it's not that positive. So you can spend a lot in fiscal stimulus, but then it doesn't become that huge acceleration in growth. That's why I presume there is here a 7, almost 8% government investment. So there should be a huge investment next year. And so all I'm saying is that all these investments have to be focused on jobs, because if unemployment goes up, it's a problem. So the best estimate would be that the unemployment gap would peak here between 0.8 and 1%, and then eventually will go down. I have already my measures that GDP will be, GDP inflation will be bottoming at 3%. It will not go to 2%, just forget it. And growth will be around 1.1, 1.3, 1.5, etc., etc., etc. Potential for output gap to be at potential or slightly negative. So, yeah, these are, you see here my GDP growth forecast. It's this, if you change it to percentages, it's 1.1%. So I have it bang online, exactly on what is the actual rate of growth, and the max estimate it's 1.3. So this growth forecast reflects the data that we have here, 1.1%, while the government numbers, they are bonkers. Okay, so I'm not showing you the ONS data because I want to share with you my models and prove you all that my models, they have good forecast. They are of good quality. Okay, Q3 1.3. Okay, so we are here, average growth 1.1, max growth 1.3%. So we are there. I'm exactly there. Inflation forecast 3.2%. So the minimum it's 3.1, so we'll be bottoming around 3%. Here there is a policy rate of 3%. I'm not so sure, because probably the Bank of England will not be able to go below 3.5%. It depends very much on inflation and the labor market. That's why the biggest focus for 2026, it has to be jobs, 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 jobs. That's the most important thing. So the biggest investment that the government can do is to create work, because the fiscal multiplier on investment, it's not so great. But it does not give you that huge stuff, the huge boost in economic growth. So two things: create jobs so that you can avoid the automatic stabilizer pressure on the fiscal finances. Avoid this scenario of high unemployment, and invest on jobs. Just create workplaces. Do whatever you want to do. I don't mind what you want to do. Do whatever you want to do. But the focus, it has to be on creating jobs. Work, 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 work. Thank you.